strategies. And the teachers rated the video teleconferencing as satisfactory and effective. So in my work with consulting with schools and families, what I often find is that schools will bring someone in to consult and the parents will say, I don't have a problem at home. And the teacher says, yeah, but we have a big problem at school. Or vice versa. Sometimes the parents have a huge problem at home and there is no problem at school. And so really this model of video teleconferencing came about through one of those situations, in that we wanted to do behavioral consultation in both settings, so both in the home and at school. We wanted to provide support in both of those settings because they were seeing different yet very similar kinds of challenging behavior. And we needed to be able to do it in a rural setting. So I needed to be able to talk to people in Price County, so like 6 hours away, and I didn't want to go up there every week, right? Like that's not even possible. So that's a little bit of background. So the assumptions that we're really operating under in this particular model of behavioral consultation is that it will improve, by changing parent behavior, we're going to improve child behavior. And that real-time consultation via video conferencing really offers us the opportunity to conduct the assessment and the intervention during typical family routines, which should enhance the contextual fit of the behavior support plan that we put together, and makes it easier for some families to routinely participate. And it helps to address the shortage of behavior specialists. So the purpose of this study was really to evaluate the use of desktop video conferencing to facilitate a functional behavior assessment, the collaborative development of a behavior support plan based upon the function of that child's challenging behavior, and parent education for parents of children with autism, specifically 3 parents of children with autism. This is a single case research design study. And to examine the feasibility and acceptability of a brief treatment comparison as a tool for parent decision making, to really look at a new way to involve parents in the treatment selection process to hopefully improve the contextual fit of the behavior support strategies that the parents implement in their homes so that they will use them long term. So generally we ask parents, we have a social validity questionnaire or a checklist that we may have parents complete to try to get at the contextual fit of a behavior support plan, but we don't often have a model for having them try out the interventions themselves with their child and then make the choice in a very kind of informed decision-making model. So again, this line of research started in schools. So we know to some extent what schools need in terms of video teleconferencing, some of the challenges and barriers there. And now we're moving over to the family side of things. So in thinking about school-wide positive behavior supports, my first thought as a researcher was to go to the school-wide positive behavior support system and ask them how they would best partner with families. But I know that the extent to which that is happening is fairly limited. And so really came at this from a different angle and said, let's find out what's best for families first, and then join them back together. So that's where this research is right now. So this is an overview of the consultation model. It's very similar to what a behavioral consultant would carry out in a school setting or a home setting, except that it's all conducted via video teleconferencing. So first, functional behavior assessment, then collaborative development of a multi-component behavior intervention plan, parent education via video teleconferencing, and then the parent briefly implements each behavior support strategy during the social condition or conditions during which the child has the most difficulty, to try out the interventions, to try them on for size, so to speak, and to really facilitate family-centered decision-making about which strategies they find most acceptable. So 3 participants, 3 parent-child dyads participated in this study, and they were located across the state. I'll show you a map in a moment here. Ben, Sarah, and Brianna, they were all Caucasian. Just wanted to point out, Sarah had some special variables that affected her participation in the study. She had a diagnosis of bipolar disorder, Fragile X syndrome, and was single and low SES. Their children were Lily, Logan, and Emma. And Lily was 8 years of age, Logan 9, and Emma 16. They all had diagnoses of autism. Logan additionally had a diagnosis of Fragile X syndrome. And you can see that they engaged in quite serious challenging behaviors, including aggression, self-injurious behavior, extended crying and screaming that was not age appropriate, and other behaviors as well that you can see. Now, it's interesting to note that these families were not aware of a functional behavior assessment or behavior intervention plan having already been conducted, even though they're in public schools. So it's interesting the extent to which it's probably a lack of communication between their teacher and the family, but that's hard to say, really. So this is a map. This is Madison here, and then the families were located not necessarily in rural areas, but in areas where there were shortages, where they weren't able to they weren't able to access services. And the mean distance for Madison was 78 minutes, so the range 37 minutes to about an hour and a half. So just under 3 hours for a two-way trip, which doesn't sound like too long of a trip, except that we were meeting with them weekly over the course of 13 weeks. So the 3-hour trip would have become onerous, I think, in terms of cost if someone were actually consulting. Now, it's important to note that I didn't actually meet any of the families face-to-face. So all of our sessions, all of our rapport building, interviews, and assessment and intervention strategies happened via video teleconferencing. So this is what it looked like. On my side of things, over here, this is my side of things. I used a laptop computer, built-in web camera, and this is the view that I got. Of course, you could make it larger, but the view that I got, so you get the supervisor behavior or researcher behavior here, and then this was a mom asking her daughter to do the dishes, which she found very difficult to do. So the parents were able to take the computer around the house and show us the daily routines during which they had the most difficulty, which is very useful in terms of getting an accurate assessment result. You get to really see what the natural antecedents and consequences are that might be maintaining that challenging behavior. One thing I will note for anybody that has not done video teleconferencing with families before, they often, as a rapport building, they often want to show you their homes and introduce you to everyone in the house, including the pets and the family members, which is great. Except I got a little seasick because they're taking me around the house. You know, it's like, wait, no. So we developed a system where if the dad wanted to go to one of the dads, if he wanted to go to a different room, he would say, okay, Dr. Wendy, I need you to close your eyes. We're going to move. So he would warn me, which is good. But, and then on their side of the video conferencing, they saw and heard me, of course. Parents either had another family member helping them move the computer equipment around, or they moved it themselves, or they stayed in place. So they might have stayed in the dining room or the child's bedroom. Most often it was neutral family spaces like the dining room or the living room that they chose.
You talked about 13 weeks and you saw them weekly, but how long were your sessions?
About an hour.
About an hour?
Yeah, absolutely. And we provided them with the computer equipment, including an external web camera, so that they could position that in such a way to be as unobtrusive as possible. So we took data on child challenging behavior using 10-second partial interval data collection and parent implementation of the intervention strategies using task analyses of the anticipated behaviors for the parents. So all of the parents implemented different kinds of behavior support strategies since they were individualized for their child, but individualized task analyses were used to look at parent implementation. So the designs used here were individual multi-element designs. Again, I said it's a single case research design And we had the 4 phases. The first phase was a functional behavior assessment. The second one, collaborative development of multi-component behavior support plans. And then parent education and parent briefly implementing each in a decision-making model. So the first step was a functional behavior assessment using a rather long interview of 90 minutes via video teleconferencing. The interview not only consisted of the functional behavior assessment interview by O'Neill and colleagues, but also particular questions about the past history, what kinds of strategies have been used to try to treat the challenging behavior, what kinds of collaboration they had had with schools rather, and antecedents and consequences, of course, medication history, and then a brief experimental functional analysis to confirm the hypothesis obtained through the interview. So typically both parents participated in the functional analysis interview if 2 parents were available. And then the experimental functional analysis was really a brief 90-minute functional analysis consisting of 5-minute conditions that represented everyday social situations. These included parent presenting a challenging task, diverted parent attention, parent restricting access to a preferred item or activity, and play. So we wouldn't expect to see any challenging behavior during play when the child has their parents' one-on-one attention and they're doing play or leisure activities they find enjoyable. But in these other 3 conditions, we were actually looking to see which conditions had the highest rate of challenging behavior, which would suggest a particular communication function of their challenging behavior, either to escape or avoid demands, obtain attention, obtain a tangible. And then following the functional behavior assessment process, we presented that data to the parents using screen share. So we actually shared our screen with the parents and walked them through the results, explained what they meant, and then collaboratively developed the behavior intervention plan. Now, the researchers or interventionists had ideas for the behavior intervention plan already prepared for the parent, but had several strategies of antecedent and setting event strategies, behavior teaching, and consequence strategies that they could choose from. And then the parent weighed in on what kinds of things they had tried before, their preferences for these strategies as we initially talked through them, and really a whole session was spent collaborating on the development of the behavior support plan. Now this is an example of one of the behavior support plans, a very simplified example. We have an antecedent strategy of a social story read prior to the problematic routine. And this is for a child that had escape maintain challenging behavior. And then behavior teaching, she was taught to ask for a break using a break card. And then her consequence strategy was token economy. Now, her dad implementing these strategies had some previous experience with social stories, and so this strategy spoke to him. He chose that. And then the other strategies he had not used before. I'm not going to, for the sake of time, I'm going to skip through these, but basically each child had at least one strategy in each of these categories of antecedent, behavior teaching, and consequence. Now, parents were then trained to implement the behavior intervention plan that they had selected through parent education provided via video teleconferencing. So this was written descriptions of the strategies, what their use would look like during each problematic routine that the parent had described, and video modeling. So we prepared videos of what the strategies looked like and shared those with the family. And then we had them practice the strategies with their own child during the problematic routines and provided them with immediate feedback. So as they're actually implementing the strategies, we were providing them with verbal prompts, praising them for correct performance, indicating if they made some sort of error. Using the same sort of behavioral consultation strategies we would use in person. Following their training in all of the strategies, the parent was then asked to implement the 3 strategies, antecedent, behavior teaching, and consequence, during the social situation where the child had the most challenging behavior. And following 45 minutes of this treatment comparison, We shared data with them on challenging behavior, their implementation of the strategies, and asked them, following discussion and questions, to choose one or more strategies based on the acceptability, the feasibility, whether they saw themselves using these strategies at home, how they might need to be changed in order to be a better fit for their home life. And now for the results. So what I'm going to show you are results for both the functional analysis and the brief treatment comparison for these 3 kids. So on the left side is the functional analysis graph, and on the right side is the treatment comparison that parents implemented. Along the x-axis is sessions, and along the y-axis is percentage of intervals with challenging behavior. So what we're looking for in the functional analysis graphs is really a condition during which the child had the most challenging behavior or high levels of challenging behavior relative to the other conditions. And that suggests a communication function of their challenging behavior. It's also a way of verifying our indirect measures of challenging behavior through parent interview. So the top graph is Lily, and each of the symbols represents one of the 4 functional analysis conditions. So we can see that Lily primarily had challenging behavior during the demand condition, or during when her dad asked her primarily to complete her homework after school, and then had low levels of challenging behavior during the other conditions, or no challenging behavior during the conditions, which suggests that her challenging behavior was maintained by escape from demands. Now her dad went on to learn 3 different kinds of strategies